Good sheep. I got the back open for them, but they're all laying underneath the cherry plum tree, getting the fat from eating the fallen cherry plums. And I'm hungry, so I'm going to make some potato chips. Step number 1, slice them up. Use a mandolin slicer, and number 2 setting is optimal. Number 1 dries out faster, because you have to dry out potato chips in order to bake them in a Gosun, because Gosun is so small of an oven that it has a hard time getting rid of the evaporating off the condensation or the moisture that's in the potato slices. So a 1 dries out fastest, like within an hour, and anything that's like a 3 or a 4 just takes forever to dry out. 2 is perfect. So get my wok out, slice some potatoes. This potato is a little big. Hopefully these will shrink as they give that to my sheep. My sheep like potatoes. They end up, when you dry them out, they shrink a little bit in diameter, but then they also curl up on the edges, so they'll still fit in the little Gosun tray. I still got some dirt on my potatoes. I grew these potatoes at my friend's little homestead. Planted them like 6 months ago. Collected like 50 pounds of them just off the first 6 inches of soil. Such a blessing. No, I'm not gonna wash them. I don't need to wash them. A little dirt don't hurt. Next stage is to rinse the excess starch off the potatoes, because these potatoes are russet potatoes are the best to make potato chips out of, because I guess they have less starch. And yeah, I found that these, whatever kind these are, these definitely, the final flavor definitely can benefit from having the excess starch rinsed out of them. Rinse my hands a little. Because my hands are really dirty. There we go. Rinsing the starches out, it not only gives it, these are too potatoey. Like when you make chips out of these, they're I don't know how to describe it. They're too potatoey, and having all that starch in there, it tends to brown the starches really quick. So you have a really small window of catching them in their perfectness, their perfect crispiness, but before they get browned. So if you take some of the starch out of there, then they don't brown nearly as quickly, and then you can get them crisper, and they don't have a slightly burned flavor. And you can feel the starch on the outside when you rub them off like this. You don't have to do this at all. It's just, I think they're a little too flavorful, and they get too brown and have too much of that partial, almost burned flavor, because the starch is burned so easily. Potato chips can be really quick and easy, or they can take forever, depending on how many little steps you want to take to make them steps better. They can either be a little bit not as good as store-bought kettle chips, or they can be way better, depending on how many little steps you take. Some people parboil these to get rid of some of the starch inside, but that's just too much work. That's ridiculous. just rinsing them a couple times is very convenient but reasonable and creates a much better product in my opinion. Got my hanging dehydrator here. Trying out. Alright, let that dry over the next probably hour, hour and a half. Next thing you want to do is get some butter out. I don't have any of my sheep's butter right now because they're low. I only have one sheep that's in milk and she's low in production. She's like under a half gallon, in between a half gallon and a quarter gallon, so she's about a third of a gallon. So I got my store-bought butter. Melt this down in your solar oven. Plenty of butter. Butter makes everything better. Use my evaporative cooler that I spray the inside down with my pressure sprayer. In 100-degree days, I gotta spray it down. I gotta spray it down like 3 times a day. But it's only in the 90s right now, so I just gotta spray it down a couple times a day. Maybe once even. To keep my butter and vegetables and cheese down to 60 degrees. Stick this in your Gosun and melt it, get it ready. And now is the time to get any herbs ready if you want to make your potato chips seasoned. I'm going to season mine with wild parsley and foraged rosemary. A little bit more rosemary than parsley. It's much harder to go overboard with rosemary than it is parsley. Parsley's pretty strong. And I'm going to put some wild foraged mustard seed. Put a lot of that in there, 'cause that's tasty. Now drizzle it over your chips. And we'll mix it in. Make sure the butter gets all over every one of them. And you can pour in your, and you can powder on your herbs and work that in. Now you can load up your chips. The chips are done. Awesome. Done. Yeah. Freaking love it. Love this. 20 minutes later, you have potato chips. Pour the excess oil off. Separated it around the edge of your bowl so any excess oil can run to the center. And they're crispy right now, but they'll just get crispier as they cool off. Feels so good.